The World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 rough boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from dying?
There was no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other
Before
delays.
we start Patriots, hit that like button, subscribe to Capital Truthline, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is the kind of political theater the mainstream media doesn't want you paying attention to. This wasn't about protecting kids. This was about weaponizing Epstein to attack Trump and stall conservative legislation.
Ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as a RUF. It's produced in the United States by Adesia Nutrition in Rhode Island and Manna Nutrition in Georgia, from American-grown farm products. A single box that I have right here of this miracle product can save a child from dying of severe acute malnutrition in only 6 to 10 weeks. Now, since January, you have promised over and over again that foreign aid freezes will not include life-saving assistance. RUF save the lives of children who are starving around the world. Do you agree that this product is life-saving aid?
Can be, yes.
Well, Secretary Rubio, the World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 RUF boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from dying?
There was no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other delays, but it wasn't State Department.
There were State Department delays. And it is clear that you have not done everything you can do to keep these kids from starving, because there are another 185,000 boxes of RUFs that the U.S. government and taxpayers have already paid for sitting in that same warehouse, all because the State Department doesn't have a plan, doesn't have its stuff together to get this rolling. So I can think of several countries where this aid is desperately needed, where these boxes of RUFs could save hundreds of thousands of children's lives. And these delays have real consequences, not just for starving children, but also jobs at home. I talked to the CEO of Adesia, who said they had to lay off 10% of their team due to the lack of payments from the U.S. government and a lack of clarity in March. So Secretary Rubio, will you commit to making decisions needed to move the remaining 185,000 boxes of RUFs to countries that need them by the end of this week?
Well, I'd be interested to learn what those impediments are.
Well, we've been talking about this for a while. I've sent you letters since January.
But there's no impediment on our end to distributing that.
There are impediments. I'm speaking directly to the
Sudan
source.
is a war zone.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. This exists as a problem, and you have not acted.
That's false.
And maybe it's the case that you have too many jobs, because I know it's the case. It must be a lot to be the National Security Advisor, the National Archivist, or the head of USAID. That's a lot. I understand a lot of footballs. You're a football player. That's a lot of balls to catch. But the issue here is we have children who are dying. So will you commit to continuing to fund the production, transportation, and distribution of these domestically produced life-saving products to save starving children around the world?
They're approved now.
They are not moving. I just told you about 185,000 boxes in Rhode Island. I live there.
And you need to figure out why they're not moving, because it isn't an impediment from us.
Sir, you need to figure out. That's actually your job, sir.
No, it's no impediment from the State Department.
Well, Mr. Secretary, it seems like you will not make a commitment.
Sir,
it seems like you refuse to make a
commitment. We do more of that than anybody in the world, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do food aid. We're going to do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10.
Well, that's a lot of talk. But I believe
those are numbers.
Seeing is believing, and there is not to be seen.
Those are numbers. Those are facts. We do more foreign aid.
Well, I've got numbers. I've got 185,000 boxes that aren't moving.
So, but the State Department doesn't move boxes.
I'm going to do you a little favor.
We authorize them.
Mr. Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time, sir. I'm going to do you a favor.
To move. Well, you ask questions you don't let anybody answer. I'm telling you, they're allowed to move.
And I have a question for you, and you're compelled to answer. Why don't you take 10 seconds now to turn to your staff and say, let's get this fixed?
My staff knows that this has been fixed.
It hasn't been fixed.
On the State Department
side. Well, then you have not proven that to me. If the people who are affected, both here domestically and around the world, are not receiving this life-saving product.
They are receiving it.
Look, you staked your career in the Senate on supporting humanitarian aid, but now you won't make a commitment, or you're saying things have been done that haven't been done.
Commitment.
You've made a commitment?
We do more food aid than anybody
You are
in the world,
talking
and we're
about,
doing
you are
more
talking
today
in
than anybody in the world.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. You are speaking in generalities. I'm talking about
I'm
specifics.
speaking in specifics. We do more than anybody in the world, and we're doing more than anybody in the world right now at this very moment.
That's hyperbole, sir, because this has been disrupted
does more?
because of your
Who does more?
freezing of aid.
Who does more food aid than the United States?
Sir, why are you asking me questions? My job is to ask you
Well,
questions.
you're the one that's claiming that we're not.
Secretary,
Tell
I'm
me who
reclaiming
does
my time.
more food aid
Secretary,
than
I'm
we
reclaiming
do?
my client. This is why I'm introducing the Rubio Act. So you focus on the one job that the Senate gave you to serve as our Secretary of State because you are clearly distracted, okay? After the last few months, I understand why President Trump has such colorful nicknames for you. You're obedient. You're following the rules. You will do anything the president tells you to do without regard for the law, the Constitution, America's security, or standing as a leader in the world. Unlike you, I do not fear crossing Donald Trump. I refuse to give up on these children. I will be calling you once a week until you take action to fund RUF and actually prove that you're doing this job to make sure you know how many children have died on your watch. Will you pick up my call?
No children.
Democrats, led by Jamie Raskin, try to hijack an immigration and child protection bill by attaching an amendment that would delay the entire law until all Epstein files are released. Sounds noble on the surface, right? Transparency, accountability, protecting children. That's the sales pitch. But here's the truth. This wasn't about justice. This was about derailing legislation and smearing Donald Trump using speculation, media leaks, and emotionally charged accusations that haven't been proven in court. Raskin went on a long rant dragging Epstein, Alex Acosta, and Trump into the discussion, claiming a massive cover-up and suggesting that anyone who doesn't support his amendment must be protecting traffickers. That's not debate. That's emotional blackmail inside a congressional hearing. Republicans correctly objected, pointing out something very simple and very important. This amendment had nothing to do with the actual bill on the table. House rules exist for a reason. You don't get to stop unrelated legislation just because you want headlines or viral clips. And notice something else. If Democrats were truly interested in transparency, why block every serious attempt to clean up government corruption over the years? Why protect powerful Democrats connected to Epstein? Why was Bill Clinton barely mentioned? Why was Hollywood silent? Why was Wall Street silent? Instead, this hearing turned into another round of Trump obsession. Trump derangement syndrome might sound harsh, but when you hear lawmakers spend more time speculating about signatures, drawings, and gossip than actual policy, the label fits. They even went as far as floating the idea that Trump might have been an FBI informant based on a so-called misspeak by House leadership. Think about that. No evidence. No documents. Just innuendo. That's not oversight. That's reckless political theater. Here's the bottom line. If Epstein files exist, and if crimes were committed, then release everything. Charge everyone involved, no matter the party, no matter the name, no matter the power. Conservatives have been calling for that for years. But you don't burn down legitimate legislation to score partisan points. You don't accuse your colleagues of protecting traffickers because they won't violate House rules. And you don't pretend you care about children while using victims as political props. What happened in that room wasn't courage. It was chaos by design. Conservatives held the line, followed procedure, and refused to let Democrats turn a serious bill into a Trump attack circus. That's why hearings like this matter. Not for the sound bites, but for what they reveal about who's serious about governing and who's addicted to outrage.